at his disposal. Additionally, he had an Article 15 possibility. I did not have that. I'd considered the possibility of a court-martial. I considered it long and hard, and for various reasons decided that it was not the best approach to address these circumstances. I decided a letter of censure was a way to address his shortcomings and set up the Grade Determination Board to judge how he served in his service as Lieutenant General.
Was part of your decision the realization that a court-martial would just take this whole affair around again?
I looked at many factors. There are evidentiary issues. As a court-martial convening authority, you have to consider this from the perspective of judge and jury, and many different factors entered into my consideration, and certainly that was one. But my goal is to find the truth and to find accountability, and would have chosen that course of action had I felt that that would be the best way to serve justice.
Do you expect this to be the end of the Tillman affair?
We have now had 7 investigations. The facts that have been in dispute through the course of this investigation, the key facts, I believe, now have been addressed and have been settled. I know there will be continuing interest in this issue, but I believe that the facts that are key to this matter have been resolved, and consensus has been found on those by all 7 investigations. So I don't know what else could be added.
Mr. Secretary? Mr. Secretary, could you explain, we understand that Lieutenant General Stan McChrystal, who was singled out in the DOD IG report for inaccurate award information, can you explain why he will not receive any punishment?
General Wallace considered General McChrystal's conduct, as did I. Two matters of importance. One is General McChrystal, when notified of the friendly fire incident, he alerted through his P4 General Abizaid, General Brown, and General Kinsinger. So he did notify his chain of command as regulations would require. It was not exactly how regulations would require that he did it, but he accomplished the intent of the regulation. As far as approving the Silver Star Award, General McChrystal said that he was aware of the circumstances of his death, that it was friendly fire when he approved the Silver Star Award, and General Wallace concluded, and I agree, that he reasonably based his conclusions on the recommendations that came from the field and had no reasonable basis to call into question the recommendation that came up endorsed by the commanders in the field who were there and had firsthand knowledge of the circumstances of his death and his heroic actions.
You say there was no intentional deception here with all these officers involved, but do you have a better understanding today about why this happened? Was this an embarrassing episode that people were grappling how to deal with? How do you explain it?
Well, let me speak to that, but I'd also like General Cody to talk to it as well. This was a tragedy. This was a tragedy that befell soldiers of the world's greatest light infantry. They don't make many mistakes. This was an accident. The CID reviewed the matter and determined it was an accident, and it explained how it happened under those circumstances. The Army Rangers took disciplinary action against their Rangers in response to what happened here. From the very beginning, the Rangers were very transparent and open about how they handled this matter. And as I review all the matters that were considered by the investigations and the conduct of all the officers until such time as we had that investigation 7 months later, there was never any effort to mislead or to hide or try to avoid embarrassing information coming public. When the investigation into the friendly fire was going on, the soldiers mistakenly believed that they were supposed to keep that close hold until they finished the investigation. General Cody, if you could speak to the Ranger issue.
Well, I think the Secretary has given you a good laydown of what happened. Each one of the investigations, as they were looked at it, and plus the review that the Secretary and I did, determined that the delay in notifying the family was just as the Secretary said, at every level from the Ranger Company to the Ranger Battalion to the Ranger Regiment, then back to USASOC, United States Army Special Operations Command, because the mission that they were on in Afghanistan was a classified mission working for the Joint Special Operations Command. Every part of their actions were treated as secret. However, at a point at regimental headquarters for casualty reporting and up through USASOC, it should have been administrative, and That's where this thing broke down, quite frankly, in my review of it. The fact that the reporting was close hold, very few people at the battalion staff knew about it, very few people at the regimental headquarters knew about it, very few people at the USASOC 3-star headquarters knew about it, and so the mechanisms that we have in place in other units that don't keep those things close hold, the lawyers, the personnel people that process casualty notification that are very familiar with the fact that if you have a suspected fratricide, you have to correct the report and send it up immediately. The fact that you require a safety investigation, all of those things did not kick in because of the close hold nature of waiting for the final, in their mind, the final investigation, which was done by a lieutenant colonel. And then they thought they couldn't say anything until it was finally approved and then signed. And that's what caused this thing to break down. And we have since put changes in place to make sure our leaders know how to handle these.
But if McChrystal is sending a message to Abazade saying it's highly possible it was friendly fire, why couldn't McChrystal just have called the family?
Because in the casualty reporting business, those forces that under Joint Special Operations Command are chopped to him in an operational control status or attached, as you know. The administrative control and processing for casualty reporting, we do not encumber the JSOC commander with all of that. That's done by the regiment and done by the Army through the United States Army Special Operations Command.
So it was General Kinsinger's responsibility. What McChrystal was charged to do, that is alert his chain of command, which he did. And that's, in addition to General Abazade, he also notified Doug Brown and Kinsinger, who had already been notified.
Jonathan?
Yeah, Mr. Secretary General, to both of you, as you well know, the Tillman family doesn't accept really any of this. They believe there was an intentional cover-up. They believe that these punishments are not really punishments and are inadequate. What do you say to the Tillman family?
Well, I can understand, considering how the Army mishandled this matter from very early on, how they would reach the conclusion that I'm afraid many Americans have reached, that there was a cover-up. The facts just don't support that conclusion. The facts show clearly, and I've walked through them in the course of my remarks, that there was no cover-up. There was misinformed action on the part of multiple soldiers, and you had a perfect storm of mistakes by many soldiers. Until you reached the point where there was an investigation 7 months later, there was no finding of any deception. The Tillman family lost a loved one. It's a pain that I cannot imagine as a parent. I offer my condolences to them, not only for the loss, but my apologies to them for how the Army mishandled this and how we compounded the grief that they have suffered over the last 3 years.
Mr. Secretary. 3 years, 3 months later, and numerous investigations into it, have you all determined an overall cost of looking into this matter? And have you also, in looking into it, found other cases similar to the Corporal Tillman case?
We have not calculated the cost. Our commitment is to find the truth, and whatever that takes and whatever the cost. I have not stopped to tally the cost either in dollars or in personnel hours. We have many soldiers have stepped up to seek the truth in this, and the information we share with you today is a result of those efforts. I have not found a situation comparable, and in fact, in my review of General Kinsinger specifically, his conduct, I did seek to review precedent to try to find precedent that was bore on this decision, and really found nothing that came very